First and foremost, H.R. 1 protects and strengthens SNAP's ability to serve our most vulnerable neighbors in need. We are stopping federal and state executive overreach that has eroded once bipartisan work requirements for able-bodied adults without young children. We are finally creating real accountability incentives for states with high payment error rates, which I will remind everybody hurts the participants first and foremost. And we are protecting the hardworking American taxpayer who has been footing a $100 billion annual SNAP bill that increased by close to 70% in 5 years. No one in this room should be defending $10 billion a year in federal SNAP benefits going out the door incorrectly. SNAP must be based on the goal of reaching nutrition independence, financial independence, and the American dream. Ms. Schmidt, you note in your testimony that you only have 12 staff members in your SNAP Quality Control and Fraud Protection Unit. I often hear that staffing shortages prevent states from reducing their error rates. How has Wyoming managed to keep its error rate below 6% for 10 years with conservative staffing levels?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our SNAP program has a very robust continuous quality improvement component to it. And so we are in this cycle of continuous quality improvement, which then allows us to efficiently use our QC fraud staff at their most. So it starts with robust data collection through our quality control program, in addition to the conversations that we have regularly with our field and our leadership. Based on all of that, we have a thorough understanding of what's happening with our program at any given time. We can see trends, we can look for problem spots, which then allows us through our quality control process to be able to identify what it is, the rate, the error rate, and then make the adjustments.
First for you, Ms. Green, you mentioned in your testimony that using BBCE, states can confer SNAP eligibility to households who receive non-cash TANF benefits. From the USDA website, it looks like almost every state that uses BBCE considers brochures, pamphlets, 1-800 numbers as TANF benefits. How does this policy actually practically work? And do states simply hand someone a brochure that has been funded with TANF dollars and confer category SNAP eligibility, or is there more to it than that?
What happens is, or what can happen, is that when someone qualifies for a benefit, they can receive a pamphlet in the mail, for example, or in an office, and then if they go to apply for SNAP, they have to show that they have received that in order to then be able to use the BBCE benefits, such as above to 200% gross, or the increase or waiver of the asset limit.
Ms. Bivens, a question for you, just yes or no. Does H.R. 1 explicitly require that states push the cost of SNAP over to individual counties? Just yes or no? Yes, ma'am.
No.
No. Well, and thank you for clarifying that for the record. States have never been required to pass SNAP cost on to counties, and H.R. 1 did not change that whatsoever. So I find it incredibly misleading when my colleagues on the other side of the aisle claim that counties are going to bear the cost of this legislation. And as your testimony points out, in 6 out of the 10 county-administered states, the state shares the SNAP administrative expenses with the counties. And in 41 states, counties bear no cost.
With all our states' unique needs and interests, it's an overall good thing that each state has the opportunity to customize their SNAP program. However, it is clear that those options have also moved the program away from what Congress has intended. Additionally, I think it has become abundantly clear that some states want to make the program their own, which I think can be a good thing, but they also want the federal government to foot the bill completely. Take my home state, for example. Since the passage of the Working Families Tax Plan, I have heard from the Democrats of my state that we can't afford the changes that the bill made to the program. However, last year, NPR reported that the state had quite the budget surplus, $4.6 billion to be exact. So I would challenge the governor of my state of Wisconsin, Tony Evers, to really prioritize this program the way that he claims to and utilize those funds for that purpose. Like with every other government assistance program, the state should contribute to the benefits, especially if they want to customize SNAP beyond what the federal law prescribes.
Okay, and you mentioned in your testimony that Wyoming implemented front-end fraud detection tools, front-end eligibility, and that has avoided close to $1 million in fraudulent SNAP benefit issuances in less than 3 years. Can you speak more about the tools that you're using, whether you know of other states that are using the same tools, and how much did it cost your state to implement this strategy?
The front-end eligibility tool we learned about at a conversation with fraud workers at a conference on welfare fraud. And the cost to start up was about $750,000. We applied for a grant through the USDA and the FNS, Food Nutrition Services. Ongoing costs we think are going to be about $200,000 or less per year. What we learned is that with a front-end investigator, when we have some suspicion that maybe reporting was fraudulent, we then refer it to a person who starts to investigate it from the very beginning before benefits are issued. That really helps to solve the problem of going after benefits if there has indeed been fraud committed. Not all referrals are fraud. Sometimes they're just mistakes in paperwork, but our review at the front end helps us to avoid that. And then if the person is eligible and has met all of the requirements, then they can go forward with the application.
So other than cost, did you have any barriers to adopting this strategy?
Mr. Chairman, some of the barriers were just uptake, trying to find, we had to hire a few investigators on the front end. So finding, of course, in our state, those folks with experience to do that. We do now have someone who's been with the agency previously, retired, and so that was a nice natural fit. And then the asset verification that we use as part of the program.
Okay.
This has been an important discussion about how to move forward and meet the intentions of H.R. 1's historic reforms. I also want to remind everyone that federal spending on SNAP has increased by over 70% since 2019, while food insecurity rates have remained stagnant. The status quo isn't working. Republicans are committed to addressing the root problems struggling Americans face, which is why we want to refocus on work and ensure work requirements are robust. After the passage of H.R. 1, we have the opportunity to serve folks on this program better, to remove some burdens from the taxpayers and get people off SNAP into independent futures.